Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report for June 20th, 2018, 9th year of Chungi, the 5th month and 7th day by the heavenly calendar. Tim Elder and King Greg Noel. You're not Gregory, right?
No, I'm not a Gregory.
You're not a Gregory.
King Gregory.
Yes,
The
just
King oftentimes
because
says King Gregory.
But you got the double G.
I got the double G, right?
You got the double G.
On my birth certificate. Yeah.
Okay. King Greg Noel the first, I guess. We're all the first, right? We're all first,
Yeah.
yes. In for the second king of Cheon Il Guk, Hyungjin Moon. And let's do the weather. And I'm going to ask King Greg to do the weather this morning.
Yeah, and we are kings because we are co-heirs with Christ.
Yes, we are.
Jesus himself said that. And
We are under true Father's authority.
Yes, and we are to build the kingdom of God with Christ.
Yes.
So we are adorning our crowns to make that statement and to recognize our true identity as co-heirs with Christ. So today is going to be a glorious day, 80 degrees, sunshine.
Cooler, huh? That's good.
Yeah, a little bit cooler. And tonight we're cool off even a little bit more, so it'll be really good sleeping weather, 58 degrees
Oh,
tonight,
yes, that's wonderful.
with a little bit of rain, hopefully.
That's
on the
nice.
On the farm, things are dry,
Yes.
so we need rain.
Our pond outside is almost empty now.
Yeah, I
So the water is, the vegetation, I think, sucks up the water. The roots of the surrounding vegetation suck up, and it's really going down quickly.
Well, it's really a pass-through pond.
Yes,
it's,
yes.
It's an overflow pond, so
yes.
it gets like that every year. And then tomorrow it's going to be 82 degrees with sunshine, and tomorrow night 54, and then Friday very comfortable sunshine and 77 degrees. So it's a good weather pattern here to be outdoors.
All right, thank you. Let's go to our Rima in the Old Testament. We're in Zephaniah. I don't think we've ever had a Rima in Zephaniah before. That's where we are today. In chapter 1, verse 14, the great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hasteth greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Lord. The mighty man shall cry there bitterly.
Mighty.
Yes, mighty man shall cry there bitterly. As I was reading this, I was looking at the emails that are coming into our church email this morning. And judging from the emails that are coming in, I didn't watch the program last night, but I gather that Elizabeth Vargas gave us a ringing endorsement. I mean, judging from the emails, that's true. Because we just got one negative email. And the interesting thing is that this one came in at 10:05 p.m. So
5 minutes into the program.
Well, if you count the time that it took him to, open his computer and type the message and send it, he must have just seen maybe the first 30 seconds or something. But anyway, that was the only negative one that we got. And then we have here, let's see, love your beliefs from a lady. Need a church with your beliefs in Alabama. Thank you for not listening to any of the crazy criticism. Keep up the good work and the beliefs, no matter what the crazies try to shove their opinions on you. You are not a cult. I believe in your church, and I hope and pray one day we will have one here also. So that was one, and then we got a bunch of others, but just this one that came in. Actually, it came in at after 4 o'clock. Maybe this was from the West. No, this is she even gave her address. No, she's in Pennsylvania, but she wrote this at 4 o'clock. She couldn't sleep, I guess.
Watching the videos all night.
Yeah, I guess so.
On our
Yes.
YouTube channel.
But the title is "Thank You, God, for making me aware of this holy church. I am so humbled and honored to have just learned of this organization, thanks to a documentary I just watched on A&E about you. You people are correct in every way. I have been on my own holy mission like this. For a long time, I called what has become my life's work and the most important thing I will ever do, except I call my holy army to come." Anyway, so and she gave us her phone number, 2 phone numbers, her email, and her address. And then she, a few minutes later, she wrote us again. This lady's on fire.
Holy Spirit's coming.
Yes. Okay, I think second time she wrote. What did she write the second time? No, I think she sent the same. Okay, she sent the same content twice. I see. Okay. Well, anyway, so I guess Elizabeth Vargas really came out in favor of us. Was that the case?
Well, you know, from their perspective, they were trying to really slam us as a right-wing fanatical group centered on guns. But what really came across is a church that believes in sovereignty, believes in the Constitution, the First and Second Amendment, and it believes that we should be strong. We should not be weak slaves. We should be strong, sovereign citizens. And I think that came across really well. And they had some excellent quotes from the king that any person of sovereignty and a strong alpha Christian could say, wow, this guy is spot on. But if you're a leftist, this is, oh my God, it's a Waco in the making. And that was Sammy Park's position and Ted Ho's. It was really a documentary about Ted Ho's and him dealing with his pain of losing his mom being shot accidentally by one of his brothers. But in reality, it kind of became clear that it's really the parents' responsibility to teach gun safety to their children, and that was not the case in that particular tragedy. They just allowed their kids to have guns, and it wasn't a lot of safety training. At least that was my perspective. I don't know exactly the case, but yeah, it was. I think in the end they had some great clips of you, Tim. You got to watch it. You came across really well, and the king came across really well. They caught Gideon off guard a little bit. They didn't really catch him off guard, but they chose a selection of the tape that was not flattering to him. And he was really upset about that. But overall, at Cooktonham's house last night, there was a joyful spirit. Okay. There was a lot of energy, a lot of laughing, and isn't that, you know? So it clearly did not convince anybody to become anti-gun. If anything, it shows that, you know, guns are a good thing. And she even said that driving down the road in Wayne and Pike County said, now, it's reported that every single home in this area has a gun. And we corrected, no, more than one gun, Elizabeth. So, you know, we're in the right place. Father guided the king to the right place.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, for that. But, you know, my point here is the reason I'm connecting this with Zephaniah is that we're living in an age when you know how in the divine principle it talks about the evil going down and good going up, and there's a point of transition and a crossover, yes. And I think we've crossed over that crossover point, yes. And so now I think Father took us as far as that, at least as far as that crossover point. And now we're at a time when even the attacks from the evil have good effects. So even though the people producing this documentary, I think Elizabeth Vargas came in here hoping to show the world what a bad organization we are and how society should condemn us and so forth. But the effect is good. Like I say, she only got one vote, you know, and that was this one guy that typed something maybe after 30 seconds after 30 seconds into the program, and people who watched the whole program, you know, really said, wow, this is great. This is a great place, you know. I introduced the one about Alabama, but also in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, they're calling us to have a church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin as well, and in other places as well. So although evil will attack, even those attacks have an effect of encouraging goodness. And that's what's so fun about this now. It's so fun now. Father, I remember Father saying in Belvedere that there will come a time when there will be no persecution, and you will want to make your persecution just to have some fun. Just for training purposes. He said, just for training purposes. Right? Yeah. Okay. We may be fast approaching. I think we are fast approaching that time. Yeah. We're already here. That's
really true. The King and Cooktonham, they have this really good attitude about persecution and this kind of so-called negative media report, and they welcome it. It's like, and it's refreshing for me because I'm always like, oh my God, you know, they're gonna do this negative documentary, this negative report. I'm kind of freaking out, and they're having a good time. So, oh, this is great. You know, the righteous Christians will see right through it. They'll stand up through it all, and they'll join with the King, and you know, I think that's what's happening. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, and we got a couple of emails also that I didn't read that said, okay, how do I join your church? That kind of emails too. So we have to figure out some good answers so people, how to start guiding people who want to, who write us saying, how can I join your church? We've been getting more and more of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a result of the documentary last night, we got a few during the night as well.
Yeah,
So,
I got a call yesterday from a woman who just saw the trailer and was extremely interested in what we believe and wanted to know more. So, you know, of course, directed her to the rodofironministries.org and sanctuary-pa.org. And that's, of course, chock full of information, but you have to be kind of a student. You have to kind of go through all the material.
Yes,
and
yes.
there's no easy way. And I said, also, our doors are always open. You can come to Sunday service. She lived in Pennsylvania. And
maybe it's the same woman. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
What was her phone number? But I got a call yesterday from a man, also, I guess, from seeing the trailer, saying, how is it that the rod of iron is the equalizer of force? So I started answering, he hung up. Something like, if you're not interested in the answer, why ask the question? Anyway, so you get all kinds.
But it is fun. And I think the Vice documentary will be much more in-depth and much more fair. Not that they'll go, even though they left here pretty giddy.
Well, let's see.
We'll see.
Let's not. Yeah, let's not.
You know, if it's
let's not assume.
yeah, we can't assume anything. But I think there's much greater chance than cults and extreme beliefs to get a fair shake out of that one.
But do we want a fair shake?
Yeah, sure. We want people to know the truth.
Well, they can find the truth by coming here.
Yeah, but we want to, you know.
Yeah, his father said, bad
really
news.
up to God.
Bad news travels faster.
Yeah, it's up to God
Yeah.
how it's all gonna get the word out.
Yes, we'll see. We'll see. Yes, but yeah, it's getting out, and we have the book that's available.
Yes.
And if you want to support this ministry, look in the description section. You'll see a link. Right? Yes. Yeah. The link is there. And
There's on the Rod of Iron Ministries website. You can order it.
yes.
And also, just for our viewers, I know
It still
everybody.
says pre-order.
Yeah, we got to change that. We got to order now.
Because it's out now. Yes.
Yeah, Eric, if you're listening, order now. Another thing that I know people tuning in this morning are probably disappointed not to see the king with his bullet crown, because the show last night was an incredible advertisement for the King's Report. They had so many segments of the king ranting on the King's Report, and of course they were good rants. From our perspective, he was speaking the truth, but from the left's perspective, they were howling and screaming. But it was an incredible endorsement for the King's Report. So I was thinking, oh, they're just going to be able to see Tim and Greg tomorrow morning, and they're going to be disappointed. But tomorrow morning, the king will be here. But also, the 1 hour interview is now up online on YouTube. So it's called A&E Exposed. And the exposed part is that they clearly were trying to paint a bad picture with that interview with the king. But we have the full 1 hour interview with A&E. So if you Google A&E Exposed, Reverend Sean Moon, you can probably find the full 1 hour interview with A&E. And the king, of course, explains the gospel of the kingdom, in really great terms.
Okay. I'm looking for. I'm trying to find the English version of the today's Cheon Il Guk.
Okay.
Cheon Il Guk thing here. Can you keep talking for a bit?
Okay.
We don't want dead air, so.
Yeah, we were we cooked at him, and G&M really opened up their house last night, and it was there was probably I don't know, 50, 60 people there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we were all in there. It was like one big happy family, and there was a lot of snacks, and you know.
Tech team, I'm on page 347.
And it was quite a high energy, and people stayed afterwards, probably much to G&M's chagrin. We were hanging out there until 11:30, 11:45, and midnight. But it was a fun time. I'm glad I went. I was a little reluctant because of the King's Report this morning, but I slept in the church last night, and I'm feeling good energy here.
Great. All right, let's look at our Chunseongyong Rima. This is in the book on True Love, Chapter 2, Section 3, Parental Love. Children are the fruit of their mother and father's love and the result of their investment. They are extensions of their mother and father's life and the realization of their mother and father's ideal. Those who have had children and given their love to them will know. This is why they say about their beloved sons, "This is the substance of my love, the extension of my life, and the realization of my ideals, my second self." Since children are born on the foundation of love, love, life, and ideals, the more their parents see them, the more adorable they become. The more their lives are filled with vitality, and the more they appear as ideal partners. When I was when we were reading this in the Korean segment, I got, I don't know, some weird spirit came over me. I just was reminded of the scene when I was probably, I don't know, very, very young, maybe 4, 5, 6 years old or something like that. And I asked my mother, "Mommy, where did I come from, or how was I born," or something like that. And this is what my mother told me, that you're the fruit of mother and father's love. So, I mean, for a kid, I mean, that doesn't answer the question, right?
More details, please.
Yes, details, please. So I was overcome by that spirit, and I really couldn't get beyond that in this Rima. But children are the fruit of their mother and father's love and the result of their investment. Yes, that's right. But please don't tell your 4-year-old this. All right, let's do because sex education, even at an early age, is important, and children need to understand, and parents should not be embarrassed at all about, to the extent that children can understand, parents should not be embarrassed at all about explaining the actual mechanics of where children come from, where babies come from. But anyway, so maybe you can talk about this. I'm still overcome by that spirit. I don't know what that scene way back when. Maybe I was probably about 4 years old then or something.
I think the king is really good expressing in his absolute sex sermons and rants that the sexual energy between mommy and daddy should be so strong in the house that the kids kind of know where they come from. They come from this incredible love source, and it's really that fruit of love that mommy and daddy have for each other and with God at the center that creates a child. And I think children should know that to their bone marrow, and that's really the kingdom of God, is when every child knows that they come from this incredible love energy that's expressed between mommy and daddy all the time. And that's really lacking in our world today, and kids grow up with this incredible sense of insecurity, and oftentimes without a dad in the house, and mom struggling to make a living, and angry, at the kids all the time because she's stressed out, and it's just a hell on earth for a lot of kids. So I think, this is another cultural shift that's happening, that the second king, centered on our true father, is really bringing to the world, is this, it's important to express tangibly the love between mom and dad, husband and wife in the house. Yes. It shouldn't be something reserved for the bedroom. Not that you should be making love in the living room, but it should be this kind of dynamic sexual energy all the time. And this is something that I think will transform the world.
But I'm realizing maybe that the purpose we're getting this Rima this morning is that children right now are at the center of social controversy now with the immigrants coming from the South. And in a lot of cases, apparently, children are being sent across the border by themselves without their parents, or even some adults are bringing in children that are not their own. And there is this situation where children are being, and I guess this has been going on for quite a few years, being separated from since 2008. So, children being separated from their parents, and a lot of sort of a chagrin over that. Of course, the Democrats, remember, are probably the have worked tirelessly to destroy the family structure, to destroy the traditional family, and to claim that children are the property of the state, and even have protected pedophiles, and have worked for the lowering of the age of consent, so that children are more exploited. And of course, Hollywood, which supports the Democratic Party overwhelmingly, has worked to sexualize children at an early age, so that they can be taken advantage of. And now all of a sudden they're interested in the sanctity of children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that rings very, very hollow for me. But anyway, we'll get into that in a little bit later in the news.
And thank God for alternative news.
Yes.
Because most people can see right through it now. They know this is a farce. What's being said on the left, and so.
Yes. All right, let's go right into the news. Why don't we? Let's see if I can bring that up now. Let's look at the Drudge headlines, and as I switch from Korean to English in the morning, my computer has to do many tasks at once, and so it becomes very slow. But anyway, Trump vows to stop illegals. New fear on border. See Maddow cry. Now, is she crying over babies being killed in the womb? I don't think so.
No.
Is she crying?
She's celebrating that.
She's celebrating that, yes. Horrifying photos of Obama's illegal alien facilities. Media refuses to show. Hill intern screams "F you" at Trump. Protesters chase Homeland Security Secretary from restaurant. End Texas concentration camps, in quotes. And the main headline is DNA test for border kids and parents? A question mark. So all of a sudden there's this huge interest in children in the Democratic Party. And of course this is because they figure that these children, if they come in, are going to grow up to be Democrats, to vote Democrat. So that is why that has to be their interest, because they're certainly not interested in children for anything else. They protect the pedophiles, and they protect those who sexualize their children at an early age. But suddenly now, children are wholly for the Democrats.
Children are always used as
Pawns,
a tool,
yeah.
As a tool to an end. And certainly midterm elections is the end here, and they're trying to invoke the emotions of probably the female voting bloc, because every female is either was a mom, or is going to be a mom, and this invokes emotion, and but it's really a very disingenuous.
Yeah. Even Laura Bush, former President Bush's wife, wrote an op-ed about how bad this is, and even though it was her husband signed the law. So so there's a lot of hypocrisy going on here. A lot of hypocrisy going on. Of course, it's sad that children are separated from their parents like this. But hey, so lesson is, don't come to America illegally.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk about that, is that how irresponsible is it for the parents to bring their children on this arduous journey where it's going to end up in this kind of tragic situation. So they're leaving their country out of their own choice. It's not like the religious persecution, or there might be some economic hardships, but that is no excuse to put your kids through this kind of potentially very, very dangerous situation. So let's put some blame where blame is due, which is upon the parents bringing these kids to the border, because they know it's illegal.
And on the Democrats who encourage them to do so.
Yeah.
Democrats who encourage them to do so.
Right. They know they're going to get a free pass.
The welfare policies, actually, my great-grandfather came to America as a child. In fact, now look at the situation, he may have been an orphan. But he came and he had to make it on his own, I guess, somehow. I think he worked in the coal mines or something. He didn't get welfare, that's for sure, because there was no welfare back then. I think he, on his census form, it says coal miner, so I guess he worked in the coal mines when he got here. All right.
Yeah, and certainly Trump is, we have to pray for President Trump. He is a lightning rod. He is just receiving the wrath of the left. Nonstop, 24/7. one of these headlines, even a Homeland Security guy is chased out of a restaurant.
The Secretary of Homeland Security, yes.
Yeah, so these guys are taking the brunt of incredible hostility. So we have to pray for Trump and his administration, because they're like a lightning rod for the left, and this kind of hypocrisy and hostility is really being targeted at President Trump right now. But I don't think it's going to work. It's not going to work. It's going to solidify his base.
Okay. Here it says, BuzzFeed News, migrants hesitate at border fearing for their children. Well, yeah, good idea. If they take my son from me, I will die, one woman who's seeking asylum when she was turned away from the border told BuzzFeed News. Families waiting inside Mexico to cross into the U.S. are increasingly nervous as reports of the child separation enforced under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy shows fear and anger on the other side of the border. As a migrant shelter in Reynosa, one of the country's most dangerous cities, BuzzFeed News spoke with 4 families who are weighing whether to make another attempt at the border or come up with a plan B. Unfathomable for those who fled their countries afraid for their lives. Yeah, well, plan B sounds good. Mexico's not a bad country. We'll stay in Mexico. Yeah. As Claudia walked past Mexican immigration agents at the bridge connecting Reynosa and Hidalgo, Texas, ready to show their U.S. counterparts proof of their brother's murder and the risk is presented to the rest of the family, they advised her to turn around because your kids will be taken from you. Tricia tried to cross the bridge with her 7-year-old son to ask for asylum 2 weeks ago, but U.S. authorities turned them around. They never gave her a reason. Piadet, who witnessed 2 of her husband's cousins get killed, had it worse. U.S. agents turned her and her 3 children over to Mexican authorities, who in turn put them in detention for a week. They are all now in a kind of purgatory within walking distance from the Rio Grande, but 1,500 long miles from their homes in El Salvador and Honduras. Hoping to hear that Trump administration has backtracked on his zero-tolerance policy against immigrants, which has led to 2,342 children being separated from the family since May. Most of the families affected by Trump's policy are like them from Central America, where gangs frequently extort small businesses, forcibly recruit preteen kids, and burn houses down as a form of punishment for those who don't comply with their orders. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions earlier this month issued a ruling making it harder for people fleeing domestic violence and gang violence to claim asylum. But I think President Trump has said that we're not going to be like Germany, and we're not going to become the refugee camp for the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just a reality. Bad things happen. Bad things happen in all countries. Happen a lot more in some countries than in others. But you can't expect the United States to just take in everybody whose brother's been killed. That would undermine and destroy, bring down the United States, which of course is what the left is trying to do. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it is.
Destabilize America.
This slogan they have now, no borders, no walls. Mm-hmm. No walls, no borders, is it? So they don't want walls. They want no borders, no walls, no guns, no fathers. A lot of no's. No, they have there.
The reality is there's a legal way to enter this country.
There is a legal way,
We know
yes.
people in our community that are going through that that process.
Yes.
And it's, it's like how do you feel when you've been waiting in line for 3 hours to get something and somebody cuts ahead of you? It's not a good feeling.
It's not a good feeling.
So it's not fair to all the people from Mexico and El Salvador and elsewhere who've been going through the proper process, and then all of a sudden just somebody crosses the border and seeks asylum and gets a free pass. No, it shouldn't be that way.
There is a legal process, yes, and America does let in, I think, hundreds of thousands of people legally every year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this notion that that the right and Trump supporters don't want any immigration is
it's completely false. Yes,
total falsehood.
Yes. Let's see. Since 2000, legal immigrants to the United States number approximately 1 million per year, of whom about 600,000 are change of status who already are in the U.S. Legal immigrants to the United States now are at the highest level ever, at 37 million legal immigrants. So it's at the highest level ever right now. So the United States is not closed. It's just,
there has to be an orderly process.
It has to be an orderly process, which is decided by the representatives of the people, which is Congress. But the left wants to just completely say, hey, no borders, no borders.
Yeah.
Go back and forth, So they want to bring America down, and that's what President Trump has vowed will not happen.
And, most of these folks coming in, thank God, are from a Judeo-Christian background.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to assimilate a lot better than what's happening in the European Union situation, where millions have come in. That is a fundamental clash to their culture, to the Judeo-Christian culture, which will soon disappear in most of Europe, and it will become an Islamic state under Sharia law. That's probably going to happen by 2050, I would imagine, at the rate that it's going right now. At least these immigrants, for the most part. But I did read a report that more and more people are coming in through this porous border of the South that are from dangerous parts of the world.
Yes.
That's something that should concern every American. So we need the wall. We need the wall. Yes. That is a solution where the wall can be at least a much better barrier.
Yeah, and this problem with children would not be nearly as serious or great if we had a wall. President Trump wrote on Twitter yesterday, we must always arrest, this is not of the 12,000 children, 10,000 are being sent by their parents on a very dangerous trip, and only 2,000 are with their parents, many of whom have tried to enter our country illegally on numerous occasions, he wrote on Twitter. Democrats are the problem. They don't care about crime and want illegal immigrants, no matter how bad they may be, to pour into and infest our country like MS-13. They can't win on their terrible policies, so they view them as potential voters.
You got to love Trump. He says it the way it is.
Yes, yes.
God prepared technology for this time, where the President of the United States can tweet every morning.
Yes,
and get his viewpoint out.
Elsewhere, great again, disability applications plunge as the economy strengthens, but Americans still aren't saving. And dozens of organizations consider suing Southern Poverty Law Center over extremist labeling. Yeah, it's that backlash. There was yesterday we had the article about one organization, one man who was actually trying to reform Islam, and SPLC labeled him an extremist, and he sued and he won. And SPLC has been forced to pay him quite a large sum of money, in the millions of dollars.
$3.4 million.
So now others are I guess jumping onto it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, many people's careers have been destroyed by this labeling, and it's not fair at all how they come up with this label. Who is this Southern Poverty Law Center? I mean, it's really just a leftist organization. That's right.
It started out, to good intentions with, trying to give legal advice to people who could not afford a lawyer. But then at one point they realized that they could get more money, more donations by doing what they do now, which is to basically create what they call a hate map or hate group list. And of course they got some real crazies on there, Nazis and stuff like that. They've got some crazies on there, but then they mix in the sort of the healthy conservatives, you'd say, constructive conservatives into that, so as to put them all into the same pot. And I believe we are still not on this list, although they did write an article about us and put it on their blog that was called Hate Watch. But I haven't checked in the last couple of weeks, but I believe we're still not on it.
Not on the list. We're just not on the watch list.
We're not on any list. They just published an article about us and put it on a blog that's called Hate Watch.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, last I checked, anyway. If we were on it, we could sue them. We'd get a lot of money. That might be a good ways of fundraising. But anyway, so like I say, even evil now has a good effect. No fewer than 60 organizations branded hate groups or otherwise attacked by the Southern Poverty Law Center are considering legal action against the left-wing smear factory. Left-wing smear factory. A Christian legal nonprofit leader confirmed to PJ Media on Tuesday He suggested that the $3 million settlement and apology by the SPLC gave to Majid Nawaz and his Quilliam Foundation on Monday would encourage further legal action. We haven't filed anything against the SPLC, but I think a number of organizations have been considering filing lawsuits against SPLC because they have been doing to a lot of organizations exactly what they did to Majid Nawaz. That's part of the settlement, Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, told PJ Media on Tuesday. Liberty Counsel filed a lawsuit against the charity navigation organization GuideStar for defamation after GuideStar adopted SPLC's hate group list. That lawsuit is ongoing. In 2016, the SPLC published its field guide to anti-Muslim extremists, listing Muslim reformer Majid Nawaz, a practicing Muslim, as one such extremist. The left-wing group listed various reasons for including him, changing the reason every so often, and even at one point mentioning that he had gone to a strip club for his bachelor party. Well, on Monday, SPLC President Richard Cohen extended his group's sincerest apologies to Mr. Nawaz Quilliam and our readers for the error, and we wish Mr. Nawaz and Quilliam all the best in settling the suit. SPLC paid Nawaz's organization $3.375 million. This is a significant settlement, as Staver told PJ Media, $3.375 million, and it did not even go to litigation. It was a result of a demand letter. Importantly, the allegations that were at issue here were very similar to the allegations against the other groups. The Liberty Counsel chairman explained the SPLC promotes false propaganda, demonizes and labels groups they disagree with, and that labeling has economic as well as physical consequences. The SPLC started as a group to oppose racist terrorism, and its first legal action targeted the Ku Klux Klan. In recent decades, the organization has begun marking mainstream organizations as hate groups on par with the KKK. Last year, 47 nonprofit leaders denounced the SPLC's hate list in an open letter to the media. The SPLC has admitted that its hate group list is based on opinion. Staver insisted that the settlement with Nawaz will encourage further legal action. He suggested that the settlement helps our lawsuit against GuideStar and may encourage organizations that were considering suing the SPLC to actually file the paperwork. There are probably about 60 organizations that we're talking to. That's at least 60, Staver told PJ Media. He mentioned the group of 47 nonprofit leaders who denounced the SPLC last year and said that group has grown since then. Furthermore, many of the hate groups attacked by the SPLC do not encourage hate or violence, but merely disagree with the left-wing organization's political views. Many, like the Family Research Council, the Ruth Institute, and Alliance Defending Freedom, merely stand for marriage as being one man and one woman. The SPLC has twisted 30-year-old arguments to smear these groups, and in one egregious case, the group actually quoted as hateful the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Other organizations attacked by the SPLC also told PJ Media they are considering their options regarding the lawsuit. Truthfully, I have not been following the activities of the SPLC too closely. Jennifer Robach-Morse, founder of and president of the Ruth Institute, an organization that lost its credit card processor, Vanco payments over the SPLC's hate group labeling last year. Pursuing our mission is more important than attempting to take on the behemoth of the SPLC. And that, the SPLC has become a behemoth because all sorts of Hollywood types are donating to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barbara Streisand and the likes donating massive amounts of money to them.
Yeah. And I hope that this will be the beginning of their downfall.
I'm sure they're having a conference meeting this morning on how to deal with this potential onslaught of lawsuits, which that would be a great thing to bring them down. Yes,
yes. Yes, righteousness grown. What was that? Grown. The strong weep bitterly or cry bitterly or something like that. I mean, I don't have it anymore. But yes, this is the
mighty men.
Mighty men, yes.
And women.
And women. Barbara Streisand.
And probably Oprah and a lot of powerful people in Hollywood like this kind of organization.
Yes.
Basically, a lot of lies. They, like you say, they do mix in some truth to kind of gain some credibility, but there's a lot of falsehoods. You know, because organizations do not agree with the LBGTQ.
Then I think there's an I after that.
I
don't know what the I stands for.
Insects. Sorry.
What is it? Let's
not insects.
Shall we
Move on.
move on? Yes, let's move on. Let's move on. Yes.
We could spend some time there.
Yes.
But
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
no.
Okay.
No,
All right.
this is
Let's
good.
move on.
This is great news.
Okay. Let's see. Clinton's son slams former president for showing compassion for immigrant children, but abandoning his own. Yeah, okay. He's continuing his crusade for recognition. And yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy. That's right.
Yeah, I was watching a video clip of Hillary
Mm.
in 2014 stating how we cannot allow children to come into this country illegally,
Mm.
that we have to create the environment where they do not come
Mm.
to begin with. And it's unsafe for them to be making this long, arduous journey in such an unsafe environment. Then they got her on tape yesterday saying how horrible this is, and President Trump is really the worst of the worst. And I told you this in my campaign in 2016, and you didn't listen to me. It was great, a great commentary.
A lot of
Before and
hypocrisy.
after.
Okay. And another test of loyalty looms over Trump's Minnesota visit. Not sure what that's about. Giant operation against wildlife crime in 92 countries. More whites dying than being born in majority of states. Facebook will harass you mercilessly if you try to quit. Yeah. Good social media experiences don't outweigh the bad ones for young adults. Starbucks closing 150 stores. There you go.
Yeah, now there's a mighty man that's falling.
Yes.
Starbucks, my goodness. When the king started coming out against Starbucks, that was the end, the beginning of the end.
And General Electric booted from the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Wow.
Yes, it's the lone original component of the blue chip index. The Dow average is I think it's more than 100 years old. I think it's started in the late 19th century, I believe. That's showing the changing in the times. But this is the free market, you see, because a government agency is eternal. Once the government agency is created, it's eternal. But in the private sector, there's always competition, and this is what happens with, excuse me, with competition over time. That
Now this is
excuse me.
This is another mighty man falling.
Yes.
They here in the Wall Street Journal, it says that once had the highest market value of
Yes.
any U.S. corporation.
That's right.
And now it's off the Dow Jones.
That's right.
They were major polluters in this Hudson Valley area and the Tarrytown area, and even my town where I used to live in Greenwood Lake. General Electric used to come up and just put hundreds of barrels into the soil, and just leave them there, bury them. Toxic liquids that So when you violate creation and when you put greed at the forefront without any regard, and since then billions have been spent to clean up the messes of General Electric. So that was just one thing where they had total disregard for people.
Used to be, General Electric was the sort of they would write the Bible on the organizational management. Was a very respected company. Let's see. Freedom City, going beyond sanctuary, Austin, Texas, vows to curtail arrests. But there's one more about, speaking of Freedom City, I wanted to do this one. Nicaraguan city chooses to govern self as crisis intensifies.
Oh, so citizens are taking control.
Well, I just wonder how far they can get without guns,
Right.
without being able to defend themselves. But anyway, it says here, this is actually a Washington Post article reprinted in another medium, but coming out of Managua, Nicaragua. Amid the deepening political crisis in Nicaragua, opposition leaders from a key city that once cradled President Daniel Ortega's socialist revolution, on Monday announced that they do not recognize Ortega's leadership and that they would create a commission to self-govern the city. The town of Masaya, about 15 miles south of the capital city of Managua, was a bastion of support for Ortega and his Sandinista rebels who overthrew the dictatorship of Anastasio Somoza in 1979. For the past few weeks, Masaya has been controlled by protesters, a warren of citizen-manned roadblocks and barricades, with City Hall abandoned and police hunkered down in their barracks. These protest leaders now say they don't recognize Ortega's government, which they blame for the deaths of more than 200 people over the past 2 months. instead of 5-member junta of national salvation will govern Masaya, seeking to administer a city, including cleaning up trash and restocking food in a city of blocked streets. And you know what? I saw an article, because more and more we have this kind of local sovereignty. And there was also one here about Faroe. Oh, what's that? What is that? Islands. Faroe Islands. Yeah, okay. Okay. In the news, there's this chain of islands. Oh yeah, here we go. I got it. That Denmark has, I guess, owned for about 600 years. They have their own language, so forth, and they're talking now about leaving Denmark. Enough is enough for the Faroe sailor Birger Eni, I don't know how to pronounce these names, have spent more than half a millennium under Danish rule. Means it's about time for the North Atlantic's autonomous archipelago to break away. We've been occupied by Denmark for 600 years. That's enough, and we need to change that soon. The white-haired captain tells AFP on his wooden sailing ship, located more than 1,100 kilometers, more than 680 miles northwest of powerhouse Copenhagen. The Faroe Islands have since 1948 had their own white, blue, and red flag with an offset cross, their own language originating from the Vikings' Old Norse and institutions and culture. With its breathtakingly green and high mountains covered by fog and inhabited by more sheep than people, the island territory is weighing the idea of pushing its autonomy to full independence.
Wow.
So more and more sovereignty, coming up in the world. And, the idea to split California is part of that. I don't know if that's going to succeed. Chances are it's not. But there is this sort of ongoing trend, it seems, around the world for local sovereignty,
against the globalist agenda, which wants to no borders,
yes,
and to create
yes,
one world government.
Yes,
that one world government would
top-down
be
government
dominated by bureaucrats.
yes,
that tell you and I what we can do and what we cannot do. No,
and
thank you.
That's right. And the thing about local sovereignty is it does not negate, people cooperating together, and there being some kind of a global cooperation and things like that. But sovereignty remains at the local level. That's the important thing. And that's what the king does. He makes each of us kings so that we have sovereignty in our own castles, in our own families.
That's right.
And it is not a top-down structure at all. That's the important thing. That's the big difference. Is it going to be top-down or bottom-up?
Yeah.
Is it going to be an upside-down kingdom or an upside-up kingdom? This, or this?
Well, history shows top-down always leads to tyrants.
Yes.
Taking over the guns and the freedoms of people. And bottom-up leads to prosperity through free association. That's how America came to such prosperity in 200 years.
And how does the Cheon Il Guk Constitution guarantee a bottom-up or upside-down kingdom? I think the most important fact is that it limits the total revenue of the government to 10% of GDP. So that puts just a ceiling on the government right there. And it does not allow government to be involved in education or in health care or in welfare. All these have to be taken care of in the private sector. That means the private sector is being encouraged to grow. It's an incentive to grow. And the free market principles apply. So that, like with GE, for example, even after 100 years, if a company isn't doing what it's supposed to do, if the customers turn away from it, it starts going down. Of course, leaving the Dow doesn't mean GE is going to go away soon, but it's a big sort of a milestone there on the downward spiral of a GE. And this is what happens in the free market. And it doesn't happen in government, because once you create something in government, it's there forever.
Yeah, they never take it away.
They never take it away.
Yeah.
They never say, oh, okay, I guess this has served its purpose.
That's enough.
Well, that's enough. No, they don't, because there's no competition. There's no competition. And they always have they can always resort to their monopoly on deadly force.
Mm-hmm. And the Constitution can be found at, for all our new listeners, sanctuary-pa.org. There's a free download of the PDF file for the Constitution of Cheon Il Guk, which is the Constitution of the Kingdom of God.
Yes.
That was delivered by the second king.
Yes.
And it's even the Washington Post had to admit it is a powerful document. And
now, when we give the website, I noticed that we have to put the www in. If you only put in sanctuary-pa.org, it doesn't give you the page. Really? Yeah, you have to put the www in. We might, I think, ask Eric to ask Eric to correct that.
Okay.
So you have to put www.sanctuary-pa.org. Will in fact take you to that site.
And you're right. It goes to a default site.
Yeah.
A default issue.
Yeah. And then you see, if you go there, you'll see a tab that says Constitution there. Yeah. All right. So these places can look at this Constitution, and they can decide to become a state within the Cheon Il Guk, within the United States of Cheon Il Guk. So the Cheon Il Guk will be made up of many states, and each state will have to have its own constitution. And this is implied in the Cheon Il Guk Constitution because it says that each state will have its own legislature, and that legislature will decide who gets to vote in not only state elections but also in federal elections. So each state has to have its constitution. So it's not about countries or locales adopting the Cheon Il Guk's constitution as you see lock, stock, and barrel. They can create their own constitution, which is consistent with the Cheon Il Guk Constitution, and they can apply to join Cheon Il Guk.
Yeah.
And that application process is also outlined in the Constitution.
It's the most free document in terms of governance that the world has ever seen. And it clearly states that true father, Sun Myung Moon, is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and his lineage is now established through the second king and the third king. And on the A&E program last night, the second king clearly states true father as the returning Jesus.
Yes.
So it went out. It's going out to the entire world. Praise
to
God.
The ends of the earth. To the ends of the earth.
The returning Jesus is
then
here.
The end shall come.
The returning Jesus is here. The Constitution has been released, and it's just, and that's why, like you said, that we see this decentralization movement throughout the world. It's because the Constitution has been released, and also True Mother's position is now fulfilled. The perfection level has been established.
Hallelujah.
And we see true parents are now
Hallelujah.
firmly established, and the second king received the revelation of the rod of iron, because without the rod of iron, you cannot have a decentralized
That's my point with this city in Nicaragua, Masaya. Without the rod of iron, how far are they really going to get?
No. I mean, Ortega does not want this to be successful.
No,
he is going to send the full force of his rod of iron down there.
Yeah, right now he's distracted by, things are kind of bad in Managua, the capital city as well. But at some point he's going to turn his attention to the city, yes.
Otherwise, this will be a chain reaction and won't end up well for him.
No, it will not.
He'll end up in hanging from a tree.
All right. Let's see what else we have in the news this morning. Facebook will harass you and stroke this guy who was texting with his girlfriend, escorted out of FBI but still employed, not fired. Comey fires back at Hillary. Cohen wants Trump to pay his attorney fees. Manafort put in solitary confinement. CVS plans drug deliveries nationwide. World's oldest orangutan dead at 62. Flames sweep through barn, killing 5,000 pigs.
Ooh, what a barbecue.
Sexual servitude alleged at Orgasmic Meditation Center. There's a cult with extreme beliefs. Oh, boy. Israel says could get tougher on Gaza after warplanes hit Hamas. Netanyahu warns of cyber risks that can down fighter jets. Yes. I think that's another reason not to fly, because not just fighter jets, but passenger planes as well are vulnerable to cyber terrorism. California moves to restrict police use of force. Keep going, California. Yeah. Markets begin to take trade war threats seriously. iPhones exempt from tariffs. Gotti fires back at critics, trolls behind the keyboard, posting fake positive reviews. Power outage triggers mass New York City subway delays. All right, and we did the Nicaraguan city. And bots poised to wreak havoc in bots poised to wreak havoc in midterm elections. Things are getting more and more confused. That's why I think eventually people will see that maybe we should reduce our, constituency to say, I don't know, 2,100.
2,100.
Yeah, that's a good number.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yes, heard that before. Yes, and that's important because the opportunity for third parties to interfere in the elections becomes much less.
Oh yeah.
Through the money or for media or bots or whatever it is.
Hacking.
Because it's 2,100 population according to the Constitution, which means that probably about 2/3 of those people will be eligible to vote. Although each state will decide who gets to vote. But in America today, I noticed that the population that is able to vote is about 2/3 of the total population. You take out the children and other people. So if you apply that, then out of 2,100, 1,400 can vote. And you only need, even if everybody goes to the polls, which won't happen, but even if everybody goes to the polls, you still only need 700 votes to get elected out of 1,400, half of 1,400. So that means that, all you need is 700 friends. A lot of us have 700 friends on Facebook. Okay, we don't know them all, but shake hands with 700 people, or shake hands with all 2,100 if you want. But you just have to get the support of 700 people, and you can get into the House of Representatives. And then the House of Representatives elects the president in a very short time span, so that, again, there's very little opportunity for outside interference, whether it's through money or through media or whatever. Mm-hmm. Let's look at this Austin, what's going on in Austin. I jumped from there to the Nicaragua, but gave me a completely different story. It didn't give me Austin, it gave me something about the U.S. pipeline.
Well, we get to reclaim our term sanctuary, perhaps, with this Freedom City. Another good term. Biblical term got hijacked by the left with this sanctuary city stuff.
Mm-hmm. Freedom City, going beyond sanctuary, Austin, Texas, vows to curtail arrests.
So M13s can now, freely operate.
I guess so, yes.
And, do their work.
Ever since the Texas legislature last year passed one of the country's most aggressive anti-sanctuary city laws, some enclaves have fought officials over the extent to which police can ignore federal immigration law. The state regulation known as Senate Bill 4 has been described by opponents as the Show Your Papers law for allowing officers to ask about the immigration status of anybody arrested or detained. Republican Governor Greg Abbott signed the law in May 2017, and Austin was among the first cities to challenge it in federal court. The law is currently in effect while a case against it proceeds. The Trump administration, in the midst of legal battles against some states and cities for their sanctuary policies, has cheered Texas, even as officers in cities such as Houston and Austin have rarely used the law to ask immigration questions. Some cities have indeed followed a part of the Texas law that calls for police to hold detainees believed to be in the country illegally. The White House has said dozens of sanctuary cities and counties in the country are breaking federal law for not fully cooperating with immigration authorities and has threatened to withhold public safety grants from them. The Texas governor has shared a similar argument and echoed Attorney General Jeff Sessions in his belief that sanctuary cities promote crime. Amid the controversy over sanctuary cities, Austin this month took its fight against the strict immigration law enforcement a step further by declaring itself to be the first Freedom City in Texas. City council members unanimously passed 2 resolutions last week that will restrict police attempts to question immigrants about their status and curtail arrests for nonviolent crimes. I see. So they're just not going to arrest people for their nonviolent crimes. I'm not sure what they define as nonviolent. One of the new city resolutions requires officers who question immigrants about status to also say that their questions about immigration need not be answered. It's not don't ask, don't tell. It's just don't tell. I'll ask, but don't tell. The other resolution directs police to avoid arrest for misdemeanors, including those for smoking marijuana, having drug paraphernalia, and taking part in petty theft, crimes that city data shows frequently end in arrests of Black and Latino residents. All right, so good luck with that, Austin. We'll see what happens there.
Well, you know how much U.S. taxpayers pay for illegal immigration in this country?
I don't know.
It's estimated at $115 billion a year. We're putting up with this kind of stuff, chasing illegals, incarcerating them, deporting them, feeding them, school education. This is, again, it's the U.S. government gone amok in supporting illegal activity in this country, and you and I have to foot the bill. It's got to stop.
It's got to stop.
And I think that's the Trump revolution.
Yes.
Enough is enough, whether it be China in the trade deficit or illegal immigration. Enough is enough. People are beginning to stand up.
There's just more and more divide over this, and we'll have to see where that divide leads to. I think it may lead to, as I say, a growing movement for local sovereignty in the United States on both sides. From Austin, Pike County, whatever it is.
It's got to happen.
It's got to happen. Let's see. Fox News Channel faces a growing backlash among Hollywood creators that intensified Tuesday following Laura Ingram's description of zero-tolerance detention facilities for children separated from the parents as essentially summer camps. Modern Family creator Steve Levitan raised the possibility of no longer working with the 20th Century Fox television studio after tweeting his disgust with Ingram's remarks. The Fox News Channel primetime host tried to walk back her remarks even before her show concluded Monday night, but the damage had already been done. Seth MacFarlane, creator of Fox's Family Guy, donated $2.5 million this week to National Public Radio and Southern California Public Radio's news gathering efforts. On Sunday, MacFarlane tweeted that he was embarrassed to work for this company after pointing to a remark by Fox News' Tucker Carlson that viewers should assume the opposite of what major news stations reported. Hollywood producer Judd Apatow challenged more Fox stars and executives to speak up and make a huge difference in this national debate about President Donald Trump's immigration policies. Paul Feig, a filmmaker who's done films for 20th Century Fox, posted Tuesday that he can't condone the support of Fox News toward the immoral and abusive policies and actions taken by this current administration toward immigrant children. Fox News declined comment on the issue Tuesday. Well, okay. Of course, all he's doing is enforcing laws, and as Hillary Clinton told us, what was it, in 2014? These children shouldn't be brought on this arduous journey in the first place.
Right, it's dangerous. That's child abuse.
Yes, I support Hillary Clinton's remarks.
David Knight of InfoWars had an interesting comparison. It's in China when Hong Kong opened up its Disney World. I think it was Hong Kong.
Yes, Disney World it does have one in Hong Kong. Yes,
it was. He made the comparison that Chinese parents would take days to get there, right, with their children who are like, Disney, we gotta go, and then they get there and it's too full. They can't. They close their doors. The border is up, right, and the parents are there. So what do the parents do? After this long, arduous journey, they find a fence and they hoist their kid up and put him in and let them run in Disney World without the parents. So the parents, so the kids can have this experience of going to Disney World. Is that responsible parenting? Would you do that to your child, Tim?
No.
No. All right. Normal people would not do that. But normal people do not bring their kids on a 1,500-mile journey to the U.S. border and just let them cross the border in hopes that they'll be taken care of. You know, that is totally irresponsible. We should try to create a better economy in these countries rather than creating more wars around the world. We should actually invest in these countries to help the free markets in these countries of Salvador and Ecuador.
Well, eventually it's up to the people there themselves, and they have to take up the rod of iron and create their own society the way they want to, and not let the central government have a monopoly on lethal force. I think in Venezuela, in Nicaragua, and other places, that is the ultimate solution. Even places where you have a lot of drug violence, gang violence, that is the solution.
Yeah.
Okay, I finally my screen has completely gone blank this morning. Take it away, Greg.
Okay. Let's see if there's anything else on Drudge before we go over to Breitbart. We could take a break too.
Yes, let's take a break while we try to clear out something here. All right, we'll see you in a minute.
Firearms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
Welcome back to the King's Report for June 20th, 2018. And we're seeing this growing wave of sovereignty around the country and around the world right now. And one person who's been calling for that sovereignty was Tommy Robinson in the UK.
Yeah.
And of course, he was jailed and put in a Muslim-populated prison. But then he was put into solitary confinement. This is an update on his situation.
With no due process.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is not an update. Okay.
He had no due process.
Right. Mm-hmm.
He was just thrown in jail
6
for
hours
freedom.
from arrest to sentencing, arrest, arraignment, indictment, trial, sentencing. All took 6 hours.
It's insane.
Very efficient justice they have over there in the UK. Okay.
And he was really just exercising his freedom of speech.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That was his crime.
Yes.
He was speaking his mind.
So there was a letter that got out from him, but I don't see it. I thought I had it, but this that was another. It turned out to be another article. But I think a letter has been smuggled out from him. Let's see the rise of right-wing Europe here on InfoWars. Europe's image as a progressive paradise is fading away as growing number reject globalism. That's right. That's global. That means rejecting global means supporting local sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Europe is embroiled in an ideological civil war, but the survival of the continent and all of its cultures hang by a thread. Despite claims made by the American left, Europe is not the utopian manifestation of Karl Marx's vision. The fact is, not only evicted by the innumerable events, and the fact is not only events, by the innumerable examples of migrant rape, gangs, and truck attacks, but also the reactions of the citizens that are affected by these incidents. Enforced victimhood and white guilt are going out of style, and nationalism is again on the rise among the increasing number of European nations. At the forefront of the battle against mandated demographic change, the Austrian government under Chancellor Sebastian Kurz has chosen to adopt a policy of what we in the U.S. would call extreme vetting. Under the new program, migrants will be required to, 1, turn over cell phones to be screened, provide valid ID or be deported, surrender cash to be put into the welfare system. An integration program has also been created by the government requiring children to learn German or be expelled from school and penalizing adults if they refuse to learn the language. Arguably, the most important aspects of the program is the ban on foreign funding for religious organizations and the strict control of the government retains over the curriculum of Islamic schools and preaching in mosques. Such a strict program may offend our modern sensibilities on the subject of freedom of religion, but Islam as a hybrid foreign religious political system opposed to European forms of government is a reality all too familiar with Western peoples. Since the writing of this article, InfoWars Europe has reported that deportations are up 36% of the in the Central European country. Okay, so this goes through country by country, Poland, Hungary, and other places where this idea of local sovereignty is gaining steam more and more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a wave. It's a wave. I'm not sure what color it is, but it's a wave.
True Father is...
It's a gold wave. It's a gold wave.
True Father is busy in the spirit world. With,
yes, it's a gold wave.
Is the Lord, mm-hmm. And there's a lot of micro and macro going on.
Yes, there is. Yep. So that's the rise of the right-wing Europe. And, let's do the story on the withdrawal from the Human Rights Commission. Do you see that?
No. That sounds like a good idea.
Yes, and Nikki Haley, as I believe, has announced that the U.S. is withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Commission, which, of course, had very little to do with the human rights.
Yeah, it's a total joke.
Let's see if we can find that story quickly. It's in, I don't know if Drudge picked it up, but it's in a lot of publications. BBC has it. Let's look at the Washington Times story. Washington Times says, U.S. to Human Rights Commission. See ya. Come dinner time on the East Coast, the United States will have announced its initial. Here we go. Oh, come on. Did you have it?
I got the Breitbart story.
Okay, go ahead.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley are expected to announce the withdrawal of the United States from the UN Human Rights Council on Tuesday afternoon, according to various reports. The decision was reportedly based on the Council's bias against Israel and its extension of membership to notorious human rights abusers.
Yes.
The UN Human Rights Council was established in 2006 as a successor to the Human Rights Commission, which was criticized for politicized abuse and the unrepentantly oppressive practices of many member states, exactly as the Trump administration is criticizing Human Rights Council today. So I guess it's really the members of that commission. It's a total joke.
It's a joke, yeah.
They're torturing people. Yeah. They're doing all sorts of human rights violations.
Like Saudi Arabia, I think, is on that commission. And
I'm sure China is, too.
Yeah, of course, yes.
So the Bush administration resisted joining the HRC precisely because there were doubts it would be a great improvement over its embarrassing predecessor organization. But the Obama administration decided to join in order to make it a more effective body to promote and protect human rights. As then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and the UN ambassador Susan Rice said in 2009. Bloomberg News notes that HRC Hillary began its latest. Oh, I'm sorry, Human Rights Commission, not Hillary Rodham Clinton. Interesting parallel there. Notes that the HRC began its latest session on Monday by discussing the U.S. media's new obsession, the policy of separating children from parents crossing the southern border illegally, with High Commissioner for Human Rights Ziad Rahad Hassan called unconscionable.
Unconscionable.
So they are joining the chorus
Yes.
line
Yes.
of the southern border. However, Bloomberg notes the decision to withdraw has been developing for a long time. National Security Advisor John Bolton opposed the body's creation when he was U.S. ambassador to the UN in 2006. In a speech to the council last year, current UN ambassador Nikki Haley called out the body for what she said it was a relentless, pathological campaign against Israel. She has also called for ways to expel members of the council that have poor human rights records themselves. For our part, the United States will not sit quietly while this body, supposedly dedicated to human rights, continues to damage the cause of human rights, Haley said at the time. In the end of the speech, no structural reforms will save the members of the Human Rights Councils from themselves.
It's about time. It's
Yep.
about time. Okay.
Yeah, it's a leftist organization legitimizing countries like China and
Yes.
Saudi Arabia, and it's
And a lot of other countries, yes. So now, Father, you said that the UN should have been only Christian countries should have been able to join the United Nations, and it should have been a body that was based on the Christian values, Judeo-Christian values, and he said that the current UN is, of course, a Cain-type UN, but is not serving God's purpose at all. And that's why he wanted to create the Abel-type UN, which he did. Okay, severe obesity rates are surging in rural America. Biggest oil patch near U.S. oil patch near its limit. That was the article that I was mistakenly led to a while ago. But the U.S. has a lot of oil in the ground, and I suspect that if this reaches its limit, then others will come up. Pipelines will reach limit within 3 to 4 months, Pioneer says. Lack of capacity to curb growth in Texas shale oil region. All right. Okay. All right. Last few minutes. Anything else that you'd like to say?
I think this man-made virus attack, urgent need to prepare for man-made virus attacks. I think this bioweapons is going to become a major.
Yes.
Synthetic biology raises risk of new bioweapons, U.S. report warns. So not only China, the United States, countries around the world are developing bioweapons.
And not just countries, I think.
Yeah, rogue states.
Yeah, rogue organizations, terrorist organizations.
And of course, the solution by the government is to create vaccines, and within these vaccines can be all sorts of side effects. So it's don't just automatically trust the government is going to come up with some kind of solution for these bioweapons and viruses that will be coming out. The best thing you can do is to create a very, very strong immune system within yourself by eating an enormous amount of fruits and vegetables from organic sources if possible. And that is really the best way to defend yourself against this bioweaponry, which is certainly coming our way and will be, whether it's disease X or whatever that's happening in China right now, where 40% of people who contract that die. And that is just signs of the time that are coming. So your best defense is something that you can do every day, and that's eliminate processed foods and eat nutrient-rich fruits and vegetables, which will strengthen your gut flora, which in turn will strengthen your immune system to ward off anything. Because the first people that die from these kinds of things are the weak, are the elderly and children with compromised immune system, autoimmune systems. So take control of your health, and if you're a parent, don't allow your kids to eat processed foods. Processed foods damage the delicate ecosystem of the body and destroy the immune system. Sorry, that was my rant.
Okay. All right. I was checking here on worldtribune.com. Congressman at a judiciary hearing blast explicit DOJ bias. Strzok was moving to fast-track Russia investigation as he texted vow to stop Trump. Death threats for Tommy Robinson. It's also from the 14th, a few days ago. Summit to Beijing. Kim Jong-un visits China for a third time in 3 months. Reports a burden of illegal immigration falls mostly heavily on urban blacks. Crimes on the rise in UK as arrests sharply plummet. That was what Austin is doing. Hey, let's not arrest anybody. See how that works.
It's like, if you're a criminal, where do you want to move to? It's like It's like the shepherd welcoming in the wolves.
But Austin is Texas.
Yeah.
And in Texas, they do have concealed carry.
Yeah.
So I guess that's your own risk. So you may get a heavier sentence than you would have otherwise. Yes, and also here, World Tribune is covering the Kim Jong-un visit to North Korea. Yeah, Kim Jong-un's wife is getting a lot of mileage. She's been traveling a lot. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on June 19th began a 2-day visit to Beijing, being viewed as a vain attempt by China's maximum leader Xi Jinping to save face after the international spectacle of the historic June 12th Kim-Trump summit. In his third visit to China in many months, Kim was expected to brief Chinese Supreme Leader Xi Jinping. Why don't you just call him Emperor? The China state-run CCTV aired footage of Kim summit with Xi at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing in what Yonhap News called a very rare public announcement of Kim's trip. Xi and his wife, Peng Lian. I'm not sure what China has up its sleeve, but I'm sure they have something up their sleeve because they can't be forced out of the game forever. They've got to find their way back in. And of course, with Chang Song-taek executed by said Kim Jong-un, and Kim Jong-nam executed by said Kim Jong-un, China has lost a lot of leverage. And so they're trying to work something out, I guess, with Kim Jong-un. But we'll see what happens with that. Things are changing rapidly, increased sovereignty around the world, and we'll have to see what happens. The Korean Peninsula especially is very volatile right now. We'll see. All right, thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you, Greg, for coming in. And we pray that all of you will have a blessed day centered on God's will. So God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.
Adieu.